Hi, I'm Frédéric Desbiens from the Oracle mobile platform team. Every time your data travels through a network, it is at risk. This is why the connector APIs offered by the Oracle Mobile Cloud Service allow you to apply declarative security policies to them. In this episode, you will learn what MCS security policies can do for you. You will also discover what policies are available and how you can configure them. MCS is a cloud-based platform. That means every time your custom code needs to interact with an external enterprise backend through a connector API, it has to send and receive messages over the public internet. This is a risk to the confidentiality and integrity of your data, obviously. Fortunately, MCS supports several security technologies that help mitigate that risk. In MCS, connector API security is declarative. You do not have to write code to implement security, but rather configure security by applying a security policy to the connector API. The fact that policies are declarative means they can be reconfigured or switched for another with little to no impact on the code of custom APIs that consume the connector APIs. A security policy simply defines the conditions under which a web service is exposed or consumed. A policy is expressed as one or more policy assertions representing a web service's capabilities or requirements. For example, a policy assertion may stipulate that a request to a web service be encrypted. Likewise, a policy assertion can define the maximum message size that a web service can accept. At runtime, MCS will manipulate inbound and outbound messages according to the assertions contained in the policies applied to the connector API. For example, a policy designed to support HTTP basic authentication over transport layer security, or TLS, will add a specific HTTP header to web service messages in addition to mandate the use of TLS for the connection. Technology-wise, MCS supports various flavors of HTTP Basic and SAML for both SOAP and REST web services. In addition, it supports various WS security mechanisms in the case of SOAP web services. For the time being, mobile user identity propagation can be achieved through SAML only. When you apply a security policy to a connector, you may have to specify parameter values or to provide credentials. Those credentials can be digital certificates or username password combinations. Any credential you provide is managed behind the scenes through WebLogic Server's Credential Store Framework API. The credentials, which are identified through a key, are kept securely in an encrypted digital store, and you will not have to manipulate them directly in your custom code. Credentials are specific to the environment in which they are defined. It is also possible for keys with the same key name, but with different credentials to exist in multiple environments. By the way, if the policy you selected requires the use of a certificate, MCS will enable you to select the relevant certificate from a drop-down list populated with the certificate's keys. If you need to add a new certificate, you will need to go to the Administration tab, select an environment and click the Keys and Certificates button. This will open a dialog where you will have to specify the key for the certificate and paste the raw certificate as text in order to import the latter. Let's now have a look at the types of security policies currently available in MCS. REST connector APIs support both HTTP basic authentication and SAML policies. Basic authentication allows an HTTP user agent to send a username and password with a request. It is often used with stateless clients, which pass their credentials on each request. Basic authentication offers no encryption by itself and must be used over an encrypted transport such as TLS. On the other hand, SAML is an XML-based open standard data format that allows the exchange of authentication and authorization credentials among a client, an identity provider, and a service provider. It is based on tokens. Basic authentication is less technically advanced than SAML, but simpler to implement and manage. On the other hand, actual identity propagation is only possible with SAML for the time being. In addition to basic authentication and SAML, SOAP connector APIs can use username token policies. A username token is supplied by a web service client as a means of identifying the requester by using a username and optionally by using a password or password equivalent to the web service provider. Those policies are typically simpler to use than SAML and place the required credentials in the header of the SOAP message. One of the big advantages of SAML over username token policies is that SAML supports SSO, account linking, and identity propagation. Let me show you how simple it is to apply a security policy to a REST connector API. This is a short three-step process. Step 1 is to access the security section in the connector's definition. On the left, you see all available security policies. I simply click on the one for HTTP Basic, then click on the arrow button to apply the policy. This particular policy does not work out of the box. I must provide a username and a password. This is why a new section appeared on the screen. I must scroll down to see it. It is called Policy Overrides, which is a fancy way to tell us there are configurable parameters in the policy. The first of those parameters is called CSF key. In this context, CSF key is simply the name for the credentials in the credential store. Step 2 is just to click on the CSF key field, then click on the icon that appears on the right. This brings up a dialog box which lists all the credentials currently defined in the store. If the credentials you need are already there, just click the appropriate key and then the select button. If not, there is a new key button at the top. Click it, then fill out the fields on the right. And that's it. Now, whenever you test the connector API or call it through custom code, the credentials specified by the policy will be added to the HTTP request. One last thing. Configuring HTTP Basic is fairly simple, but other types of policies could require more work from your part, especially if they involve digital certificates. That said, policy configuration is not a thing you will do frequently. However, you should ensure that the credentials are changed at regular intervals. When that happens, you will have to update them in MCS as well. Better safe than sorry. Security policies are a non-intrusive, declarative way to ensure the confidentiality and the integrity of your data. They can be used on both REST and SOAP connector APIs and should be configured as soon as possible in the development process. After all, even a simple unsecured web service deployed in a test environment could provide a vector of attack to eventual hackers. As they say in my favorite video game, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. On this dangerous internet, MCS security policies are one of the best weapons you can have. That's all for now. Thank you for watching and see you soon.